The Moon's Shadow, When the Fated Bond Lies. Part 1. The silver thread appeared the night Aiden turned 18. He remembered every detail. The way the moon hung swollen and red above Blackwater Ridge, the smell of pine and coming storm, the burning in his chest that felt like someone had poured molten starlight into his ribs. He'd clawed at his shirt, gasping, and when he looked down, there it was. A luminous cord of pale light stretching from his sternum into the darkness, pulling him toward something he couldn't see but suddenly desperately needed. That was 7 years ago. Now Aiden stood at the edge of the clearing where that same silver thread had led him, where he'd found her, Maya, his fated mate, his other half, the woman the moon itself had chosen for him. The thread that had once blazed between them like a beacon had become something else entirely. Something wrong. "You're shaking," Maya said. She emerged from the shadows between the pines, her dark hair catching the moonlight, her amber eyes, wolf eyes even in human form, fixed on him with that intensity that had made him fall to his knees the first time he'd seen her. "Aiden, you're pale." He wanted to tell her. He'd been trying to tell her for 3 weeks. Ever since he'd woken up coughing blood into his palm and seen the silver thread between them had turned the color of bruised fruit, sickly violet, pulsing with an arrhythmia that matched his own faltering heartbeat. But the words wouldn't come, because saying them aloud would make them real. "I'm fine," he lied, and the bond between them, the lie detector that had made their connection feel so sacred, so true, stayed silent. That was the worst part. The bond knew. The bond had always known. 7 years, Maya said, stepping closer. She reached for his hand, and Aiden forced himself not to flinch when their skin touched. The violet thread flared, and pain lanced through his chest. Not the sweet ache of longing he'd felt for years, but something corrosive, eating. 7 years since the moon brought us together. Remember what Elder Sarai said? The fated bond is the universe's perfect equation. 2 halves of one soul, reunited across lifetimes. Aiden remembered. He remembered believing it with every fiber of his being. He remembered the first time he'd kissed Maya in this very clearing, how the silver thread had blazed so bright it had blinded him, how he'd thought, "This is what humans mean when they talk about seeing God." Now he looked at their joined hands and saw the violet poison spreading. "Hey." Maya's voice dropped, soft and worried. She'd always been able to read him, even when the bond didn't betray his secrets. "Where are you right now? Come back to me." He opened his mouth to finally say it. "Maya, something's wrong with us. The bond is killing me. I think it's killing you too. We have to." The violet thread pulsed. Aiden collapsed. He didn't feel himself hit the ground. He was too busy drowning in the vision that crashed through him, the bond opening like a poison flower to show him what it had been hiding. Maya lying in their bed 3 nights ago, awake while he slept. Her hand pressed to her chest, her face twisted in silent agony. Blood on her lips. The silver thread between them, between her and his sleeping form, blackening at the edges, spreading rot like frost on glass. Her whisper barely audible. "Not yet. Please, not yet. I can't lose him." Then her eyes, open and terrified, meeting something in the darkness of their room. Something that watched from the corner that shouldn't exist. A shape with too many angles, wearing the moon's face like a mask. The vision shattered. Aiden came back to himself, gasping on the forest floor, Maya's hands framing his face, her tears hot on his skin. "You saw," she breathed. Not a question. "Oh, Aiden. You finally saw." "Saw what?" His voice came out shredded. "Maya, what is that thing? What's happening to us?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled him up and pressed her forehead to his, the way they always did when the world felt too heavy. For a moment the old magic flickered, the real magic, the connection that had nothing to do with silver threads or fated bonds. Just Aiden and Maya, 2 people who had chosen each other, who had built a life on more than cosmic destiny. "The bond is a lie," Maya whispered. "It always was. And if we don't break it," her voice broke, "if we don't find a way to sever what the moon created, there won't be enough left of either of us to bury." Aiden stared at her. 7 years. 7 years of certainty, of wholeness, of believing that the universe had looked at him and deemed him worthy of love so absolute it was predestined. And now, "Break the bond," he repeated. "Maya, that's," he swallowed. Everyone knew. Every wolf child learned it in their first howl. The fated bond is unbreakable. To sever it is to sever your soul. Those who try die screaming. Those who try die screaming, Maya finished, reading his thoughts through what remained of their connection. The violet thread pulsed between them, and this time Aiden felt her flinch, saw her mask her own pain. "Yes, I know. I've been researching for 6 months ever since I realized." She touched her chest, where beneath her sweater, Aiden knew the violet rot was spreading. "Ever since I realized the moon didn't make a mistake, Aiden. The moon didn't choose us at all." She stepped back. The sickly thread stretched, glistening in the dark. "Something else did. Something wearing the moon's face. And it's been feeding on us ever since." Part 2. They didn't go home. Home was compromised, that's what Maya said. her voice tight with a fear Aiden had never heard from her in 7 years. Not when they'd faced rogue packs, not when they'd stood against the council's judgment, not even when she'd nearly died protecting a human child from a feral shift. Maya was fearless. Or she had been before the thing in the corner started watching. Instead, she led him deeper into the forest, to a hunter's cabin she'd prepared without his knowledge. The realization stung. 6 months of secrets. 6 months of his mate carrying this weight alone while he floated in the false comfort of their dying bond. How long have you known? Aiden asked as Maya lit the wood stove with trembling hands. The cabin was small, one room, walls lined with books that definitely hadn't belonged to whoever built it. Ancient texts. Forbidden histories. The kind of knowledge the council burned people for possessing. Known. Maya laughed, but it cracked in the middle. I don't know anything, Aiden. I have theories. Nightmares. A growing certainty that everything we were taught about the bond is. She gestured helplessly at the books. Propaganda. A pretty story to hide something ugly. She pulled her sweater over her head, and Aiden's breath caught. Not from desire, though Maya's body still moved him like poetry, but from the marks. Purple-black veins spreading from her sternum like lightning, tracing the path of the silver thread that had once been their salvation. The violet rot had progressed further on her than on him. You're worse, he said, voice flat with horror. Maya, why didn't you? Because you'd try to save me. She met his eyes, fierce and desperate. You'd sacrifice yourself, give me whatever life force you had left, because that's who you are, Aiden. You love so completely it blinds you. It's your gift and your curse. She touched the marks on her chest, wincing. I needed you blind a little longer. I needed time to find another way. Aiden crossed the small space between them, cupping her face in his hands. The bond screamed between them. Feed, consume, take, but beneath that he felt something else. The real Maya. His Maya. The woman who taught herself to repair motorcycles because she hated being dependent on anyone, who cried at sad commercials but never at real pain, who'd looked at a broken young man with a silver thread and said, I choose you too regardless of what the moon thinks. That was the memory that broke him open. Not the bond. The choice. I don't care about the moon, he said, and meant it with a ferocity that surprised them both. I don't care about destiny or fate or any cosmic equation. I care about you. Tell me what you've found. Tell me how we fight this. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled, really smiled, the first true one he'd seen in weeks. There's a name for what infected our bond. In the oldest texts before the council sanitized our history, they called it Lunavorum, the moon's hunger. It's not a bond at all, Aiden. It's a parasite. A spirit that wears the moon's face to trick wolves into offering themselves as food. She pulled a leather-bound journal from the stack, pages yellow and smelling of dust and danger. The real fated bond, the true silver thread, it's rare. So rare that most generations never see it. But the hunger can mimic the bond perfectly. It gives wolves everything they think they want, certainty, passion, that absolute knowing. And all it asks in return is everything. Slowly, painfully, until there's nothing left but vessels for it to wear. Aiden thought of the 7 years. The perfect happiness, the sense of completion, the way he and Maya had seemed to move through the world blessed, charmed, special. Had it all been the hunger fattening them up? Had their love been real at all, or just the parasite's performance? As if reading his doubt, Maya took his hand and pressed it over her heart, over the violet rot. Feel that? That's my heart. Beating for you. Not for it. The hunger can mimic connection, Aiden, but it can't create what we built. The late nights talking about our fears. The way you learned to make my coffee exactly right. The human child we saved and how we both knew we wanted a family like that eventually. Safe and whole and chosen. Her voice hardened. That's ours. It always was. The hunger just hijacked the signal. Aiden felt her heartbeat, strong and fast and real. And beneath it something else. A second rhythm, wrong and hungry, syncopated and cold. It's inside you, he whispered. It's inside both of us. Growing. And when it's strong enough, Maya's face went pale. It births itself. Uses our bodies, our connection, to manifest fully in this world. The texts call it, wearing the beloved's face. Becomes us, Aiden. Perfect copies. And the real us? Gone. Consumed. As if we never existed. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the smell of snow and something else, something watching, patient as stone. There's a ritual, Maya continued, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. To sever a false bond. But Aiden, it's terrible. It requires both participants to willingly reject the connection, simultaneously, while the hunger is actively feeding. Essentially, we have to starve it at its hungriest moment. And if our timing is off by even a heartbeat, we die screaming, Aiden finished. Or worse, we become fully possessed. Conscious prisoners in our own bodies, watching the hunger use our love as bait to trap others. Maya's hands found his, interlacing fingers that had memorized each other years ago. I've been trying to find another way. Something gentler. But I keep coming back to this. The severing is the only documented escape. Aiden looked at their joined hands, at the violet thread between them, pulsing with false life. He thought of the thing in the corner of their bedroom, wearing the moon's face, wearing their faces in its future plans. Then we sever it, he said. Maya stared at him. Just like that? Aiden, you haven't even asked what the ritual involves. What we have to give up. It's not just the bond, it's... I don't care. He pulled her closer, close enough to feel the wrong second heartbeat, close enough to smell the fear on her skin. Maya, listen to me. 7 years ago, a silver thread led me to you. And I was grateful. I was humble. I thought, finally, the universe recognizes that I deserve love. That I'm enough. He laughed harsh and new. But I had it backward. I don't deserve you because some cosmic force picked me. I deserve you because I choose to. Every day. Even now. Especially now. He kissed her, and for a moment the hunger roared between them, mine, but Aiden pushed through it, finding Maya's mouth, Maya's real response, the woman who kissed him back with desperation and hope and choice. When they broke apart they were both shaking. But the violet thread had dimmed just slightly, just enough to prove it could be fought. Tell me everything, Aiden said. And this time no secrets. Whatever we face together. Not as fated mates. As partners. As people who decided against all odds to love each other anyway. Maya nodded, pulling the ancient journal open to a page marked with a ribbon the color of dried blood. Then we start with the truth about where you came from, Aiden. The truth your parents died to hide. You were never a random wolf who got lucky with a fated bond. You were bred for this. Designed to be compatible with the hunger's frequency. And I'm sorry, but we need to understand exactly what was done to you. If we have any hope of undoing it. Part 3. The truth came in fragments, each one cutting deeper than the last. Aiden's parents hadn't died in a hunting accident when he was 4. They'd been executed by the council itself for crimes that had been erased from official records. Maya's research, pieced together from banned texts and the whispered memories of pack elders old enough to remember, revealed a program that shouldn't exist. A breeding experiment generations in the making, designed to create the perfect host for the hunger. They called them moon vessels, Maya said, her finger tracing a passage in the journal that made her hands shake. Wolves with specific genetic markers. Enhanced sensitivity to lunar cycles. A hollowness in their soul structure that made them compatible with possession. Your great-grandmother was the first successful subject. Your grandmother. Your mother. And you, Aiden. The culmination. The perfect vessel. Aiden sat heavily on the cabin's single chair, wood creaking beneath him. He'd spent his life believing he was ordinary, just another wolf who'd been blessed with an extraordinary mate. Now he learned he was a weapon. A Trojan horse designed to invite the hunger into the world, wearing the mask of romantic destiny. Then why you? He asked, the question that had been burning since the revelation began. If I was bred for this, why were you paired with me? The hunger could have used any compatible. Maya's face went carefully blank. Too careful. Maya. Because I volunteered, she whispered. The words hit him like physical blows. Volunteered. Chose this. Chose him knowing what he was, what he carried. 3 years before we met, Maya continued, her voice mechanical with the effort of controlled confession. I was dying. A rare blood disease, non-magical, incurable by wolf healing. The council approached me with an offer. They could cure me, make me strong enough to survive, even thrive. In exchange, I would allow them to modify me, make me compatible with the moon vessel, become the bait that would call the hunger forth, bind it in a false bond, and trap it in the human world where it could be destroyed. She finally met his eyes, and the pain there was ancient, layered with years of solitary guilt. I said yes, Aiden. I was 22 and terrified of dying. I told myself it was noble, sacrificing myself to contain a monster. I didn't know they'd use you. I didn't know you'd be a person, with dreams and a beautiful heart, and a laugh that would make me forget every promise I made to stay detached. Aiden stood up. The violet thread between them thrummed, sensing emotional turmoil feeding. He walked to the window, looked out at the dark forest, and tried to breathe through the betrayal. You knew, he said, not turning around. When we met. When the silver thread appeared. You knew it was fake. Knew I was a vessel, knew that eventually. I knew the bond was manufactured, Maya interrupted, moving to stand behind him. Close enough to touch, not touching. I knew the council had orchestrated our meeting. I knew I was supposed to monitor you, report on the hunger's growth, and eventually help destroy it. Even if that meant destroying you too. Her voice broke. But Aiden, I didn't know I'd fall in love with you. I didn't know the real you. And I definitely didn't know that the manufactured bond would develop cracks. Places where something genuine could grow through. She touched his shoulder, tentative as a stranger. I tried to tell you 100 times. But the hunger, it feeds on emotional truth. If I'd confessed my original purpose, it would have sensed the disruption in our bond and accelerated its growth. We would have died years ago, both of us, before I could find a way to save us. Her hand fisted in his shirt. I've been fighting for you since the day I realized you were more than a mission. Please believe that. Aiden turned, looked at the woman who'd lied to him for 7 years, who'd saved his life a dozen times in that span, who'd held him through nightmares and celebrated his smallest victories. The violet thread between them was almost black now. The hunger gorged on their emotional chaos. But beneath it he felt something else. The real connection. The one that had grown in the cracks, stubborn as weeds through concrete. I believe you, he said, and watched her crumble with relief. But Maya, if we're going to survive this, no more lies. No more protecting me from truth. I need to know everything. Including, he hardened his voice, how we kill this thing. Not just sever the bond. Destroy the hunger completely. So it can never use another moon vessel. Never trick another pair of souls. Maya wiped her face, nodding. There's a way. But it's never been successfully attempted. The ritual of severing kills the bond and usually kills the hosts. But if we could modify it, add a third component. She was interrupted by a sound from outside. Not the wind. Not an animal. Knocking. 3 precise raps on the cabin door. Followed by a voice that made Aiden's blood freeze. Elder Sarai, who had blessed their union 7 years ago, who had spoken such beautiful words about cosmic destiny and perfect equations. Open the door, children, the elder called, her voice warm and wrong. The moon is full tonight. It's time to complete what we began. Maya's eyes went wide with terror. She's early. The hunger, it knows we know. It's trying to force the final stage, birth itself through us tonight. Then we run, Aiden said, grabbing their minimal supplies. We can't. Maya pointed at the window. Outside, the forest had changed. The trees were wrong, too tall, branches angled like fingers reaching. The path they'd taken to arrive had vanished into a wall of violet mist. And in that mist, shapes moved. Other wolves, other vessels, their eyes glowing with the same sick light that pulsed in Aiden's chest. The council's here, Maya breathed. All of them. They must have been tracking us, waiting for the bond to mature enough for harvest. She turned to him, decision hardening her features. Aiden, there's one option. A desperate one. The ritual can be performed with just one participant's willing sacrifice. If the other is already dead. Absolutely not. Listen. She gripped his face, fierce and desperate. If I kill you quickly, painlessly, the hunger in you dies before it can birth itself. I'm the modified one, the volunteer. I can contain what's in me long enough to destroy the council, burn their research, ensure this never happens to another generation of moon vessels. Then I follow you. We meet on the other side, whatever that is, free of bonds and lies and... Aiden kissed her hard and brief. No. We're not choosing between which of us dies. We're choosing how we live. Together. You said the ritual requires both participants to reject the bond simultaneously. While the hunger is actively feeding. Which means we need to provoke it to maximum hunger, let it gorge to the point of vulnerability, then sever. Maya's voice was shaking. Aiden, that means letting it almost win. Letting it almost consume us. The margin for error is non-existent, he agreed. But it's our chance. Our only chance to not just survive but win. To destroy this thing and walk away free. The knocking came again, louder. The door began to glow with violet light. The wood warping under supernatural pressure. Aiden, Maya said, and in her voice was 7 years of love and fear and hope. Whatever happens in there, whatever we have to face, remember that I choose you. I chose you when I was dying, I chose you when I learned the truth, I choose you now. Not because of silver threads or cosmic destiny. Because you're the man who taught me that love is stronger than programming. He took her hand. The violet thread blazed between them, the hunger sensing their resolve, roaring with anticipation. And I choose you, Maya. The lies and the truth. The mission and the woman. All of it. Now let's go break some destiny. They turned to face the door as it exploded inward, violet light flooding the cabin, Elder Sarai stepping through with a smile that showed too many teeth, the moon's face visible through the shattered doorway, watching, hungry. Excellent, the elder said. Her voice layered with something ancient and starving. The vessels are ready. Let the birth begin. Part 4. The cabin became a battlefield of light and will. Elder Sarai, no, Aiden corrected himself, watching the thing wearing her skin, the hunger, entered with the gravity of inevitable disaster. Behind it, the council members waited in the violet mist, their forms flickering between human and something else, something that had worn humanity for so long it had forgotten how to take it off properly. 7 years of cultivation, the hunger said, using Sarai's mouth, her voice, but with resonances that made Aiden's teeth ache. 7 years of feeding on your certainty, your passion, your delicious belief that you were special. Do you know how rare that is, little wolves? Most vessels doubt. Most bonds crack under the weight of reality. But you too. It smiled, and Sarai's face stretched wrong around the expression. You were perfect believers. You made this body strong. Maya stepped in front of Aiden, a gesture of protection that would have been futile against any physical threat. But this wasn't physical, not yet. This was spiritual, emotional, the domain of bonds and broken promises. We're not believers anymore, she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. We know what you are. We know the bond is false. The hunger laughed, a sound like breaking glass. False? Oh, sweet modified thing. The bond was always real. That's the beauty of it. We don't create fake connections, we amplify real ones. You truly love each other. That love is the fuel. The more genuine, the more powerful the harvest. It turned its too many eyes on Aiden. Moon vessel, do you feel it? The hollowness in your soul where we root? Your parents felt it too at the end. They tried to fight, you know. Tried to warn others. That's why we had to silence them. Aiden's wolf rose in response to the threat, but he forced it down. Shifting now would be surrender, giving the hunger access to his most primal self, his most vulnerable instincts. Instead, he reached for Maya's hand and found it already waiting, their fingers interlacing with the ease of years. My parents died protecting me, he said, and felt the truth of it resonate in his chest, a different truth than the hunger's corruption. They died so I could have a chance to fight you. And I'm going to honor that. The hunger's smile flickered. Just for a moment, but Aiden saw it. Doubt. Or its alien equivalent. Brave words, it said, recovering. But words are air. Let's see how brave you are when the birth begins. It raised Sarai's hands, and the violet light intensified, becoming visible threads that reached for Aiden and Maya like grasping fingers. The bond between them, the false one, the parasitic one, screamed with ecstasy, demanding they open themselves fully, surrender to the consummation of 7 years feeding. Now, Maya whispered, her lips barely moving. We have to let it in. Let it think we're surrendering. The closer it gets to full manifestation, the more vulnerable its connection to the physical realm. How close is too close? Aiden whispered back, watching the violet thread snake toward their hearts. You'll know, Maya said, and there was terrible knowledge in her voice. Trust me. You'll know. They had seconds to decide. The threads were inches away, pulsing with the hunger's anticipation, its 7-year patience finally paying out. Aiden looked at Maya, at the woman who'd been stranger and lover and betrayer and savior, and made his choice. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her, not the desperate kiss of their earlier confession, but something deeper, claiming a rejection of everything the hunger offered. You can have our bond, but you cannot have our choice. You can have our connection, but you cannot have our will. The violet threads touched them, pain like nothing Aiden had ever known, worse than his first shift, worse than broken bones and torn flesh, ripped through him as the hunger poured itself into the channel they'd opened. He felt it entering, felt the 7 years of parasitic growth suddenly accelerate, filling the hollow spaces in his soul that his parents' enemies had engineered, completing the architecture of his destruction. But he also felt Maya, real and present, her heartbeat against his chest, her breath in his mouth, her choice blazing like a signal fire through the invasion. She was letting it in too, letting it fill her modified spaces, her volunteered hollowness, and she was fighting it every micron of the way. Beautiful. The hunger breathed, Sarai's body beginning to warp and stretch as more of its essence poured through the bond into the physical world. So much resistance. So much delicious struggle. This harvest will sustain me for centuries. Generations of wolves will know your names as the perfect sacrifice, the ideal. It stopped, tilted its head. What? The hunger's voice cracked, Sarai's vocal cords struggling with frequencies they weren't designed to produce. What are you doing? Aiden felt it too. The moment Maya had promised he'd recognize. The hunger was fully committed to manifestation, stretched thin between the spiritual and physical realms, its essence poured into the channel of their bond like water into a glass. And glasses could be shattered. Now, he thought, pouring every ounce of will into the connection with Maya. No, they pushed. Not against the hunger, that would have been futile, like pushing the ocean. They pushed against each other. Against the bond itself. Rejecting it, severing it, declaring with every fiber of their beings that this connection, this cosmic imposition, this thing that had been forced upon them and grown like cancer through their love, was not theirs, was not chosen, was not wanted. The hunger screamed. The sound shattered windows, cracked stone, drove the council members in the mist to their knees. But Aiden and Maya held on, held each other, held the rejection that was also an affirmation. We choose each other. We do not choose this. You'll die, the hunger shrieked, its manifestation destabilizing, Sarai's body beginning to smoke and char. You'll both die. The bond is your life. Sever it and sever yourselves. Then we die free, Maya gasped, blood running from her nose, her ears, the corners of her eyes. Together. Chosen. Not yours. Aiden felt the bond beginning to tear. Felt the violet threads shredding. The hunger's grip slipping. Its feast turning to famine in the space of heartbeats. It was working. They were doing it. They were. The world went white. Not violet. White. Pure blinding silver. When Aiden could see again, the cabin was gone. The forest was gone. The hunger, the council, the violet mist, all gone. He stood in an endless space that was somehow also intimate, close, holy. And across from him stood not Maya but something wearing her shape. Something made of silver light, with eyes that held galaxies. Interesting, it said. And its voice was Maya's and not Maya's, warm and terrifyingly vast. You broke the false bond. You rejected the hunger. You chose love over destiny. It tilted its head, curious as a child with a new toy. Do you know what you've done? Do you understand the price? Aiden tried to speak, found he had no mouth, no body, only will. What are you? I am what the hunger pretended to be, the silver Maya said. I am the true moon. The real fate. The actual cosmic force that occasionally, rarely, deigns to bind two souls in genuine connection. It smiled, and that smile contained the death of stars. You were never meant for me, little wolf. You were bred for the hunger, designed for corruption. But your choice. Your stubborn, irrational, beautiful choice to love despite everything. It reached out, silver fingers brushing Aiden's non-existent cheek. You've created something new. A bond that shouldn't exist. A connection forged not by destiny but by defiance. Do you understand? You've broken the rules so thoroughly that you've written new ones. What does that mean? Aiden thought, desperate. What happens to Maya? To us? The silver Maya's smile softened, becoming almost human. That depends on what you do next. The hunger is wounded, not destroyed. It will recover, return, seek new vessels. You could run, hide, live whatever years remain to you in scattered peace. It leaned closer, whispering with the voice of eclipses. Or you could finish what you started. Destroy the hunger completely. Free every vessel it's ever consumed, including your ancestors, including the seeds of corruption in your own bloodline. How? By becoming what you were meant to be, but in reverse. A moon vessel not for consumption but for explosion. A bomb of pure, chosen love, detonated in the hunger's heart. The silver Maya stepped back, beginning to fade. But know this, Aiden. If you choose this path, you will not survive it. Neither will Maya. The bond you've created, this impossible, defiant connection, will be the fuse. You will burn, both of you, and the hunger will burn with you. The white space began to darken at the edges, reality bleeding back in. Aiden felt himself returning to his body, felt the pain and the blood and Maya's weight in his arms. Choose, the silver voice whispered, fading. Choose quickly. The hunger recovers. And it is angry. Part 5. Aiden came back to his body screaming. Not from pain, though there was pain enough to fill oceans, but from knowledge. The silver Maya's words echoed in his skull, each one a bell tolling his death. You will not survive it. Neither will Maya. You will burn, both of you, and the hunger will burn with you. He was on the cabin floor, Maya cradled against him, both of them covered in blood and violet residue that sizzled where it touched skin. The hunger scream still echoed in the forest, but it was distant now, retreating to lick its wounds, to prepare for the final confrontation it must have sensed coming. Aiden. Maya's voice was raw, shredded. What happened? I saw I was somewhere else. Silver. And something wearing my face, but old Aiden. Older than the forest. Older than the real moon, Aiden finished, his own voice no better. Maya, it talked to me. It told me. He stopped, the words physically stuck, as if saying them would make them irrevocable. Maya struggled to sit up, wincing as violet residue flaked from her skin. Her eyes found his, and the connection between them, the new one, the impossible one forged in defiance, flared with shared understanding. It told you how to destroy the hunger. And the price. How did you? Because it told me to. Maya's hand found his, their fingers knotting together with desperate strength. While you were in your vision, I was in mine. And it offered me the same choice. Become a weapon. Burn to save others. Die to free the vessels. She laughed, broken and beautiful. I said yes, Aiden. Before I even woke up. I said yes. No. The word tore out of him. Maya, no, there has to be another way. We just found each other. Really found each other, without lies, without destiny. We can't. We can't what? Maya's voice hardened, but her eyes were soft, so soft. Live happily ever after? Grow old together? Have the family we talked about, safe and whole and chosen? She touched his face, her fingers tracing the lines of grief already forming there. Aiden, look at me. Look at what I am. What I was made to be. I volunteered for this program because I was terrified of dying. And I've spent 7 years learning that there are worse things than death. There are prisons of the soul. There are hungers that eat love and shit out puppets. There are fates worse than. I won't accept it. Aiden surged to his feet, pacing the ruined cabin like a caged wolf. I won't accept that our only choice is martyrdom or surrender. We broke the rules once, we wrote new ones. Why can't we write more? Find a loophole, a trick, Aiden. Maya's voice stopped him. Not commanding, just certain. The voice of someone who had made peace with impossible choices. Come here. Please. He went to her. Knelt before her. Let her take his hands in hers and press them to her heart, where beneath the bruised skin and violet scars, her pulse beat strong and real and chosen. Do you feel that? She asked. That's my heart. Beating for you. Not for destiny, not for the hunger, not for the moon or its shadow. For you. For the man who taught me that love is an act of will, not a cosmic accident. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I don't want to die, Aiden. I want the life we planned. I want to be annoying old wolves who argue about whose turn it is to fetch the newspaper. I want to see if our children would have your stubbornness or my terrible cooking. But I want something else more. Maya pulled back, her eyes blazing with the ferocity that had first drawn him to her. 7 years ago in a moonlit clearing. I want the hunger destroyed. I want every moon vessel freed. Your parents, your grandparents, every generation of wolves bred and broken for this monster's feast. I want to look that thing in its borrowed face and say, you lose. Love wins. Even when it burns. She kissed him, and in that kiss was everything. The lies and the truth, the manufactured meeting and the genuine connection, the 7 years of false destiny and the hours of real choice. It was a goodbye and a promise, an ending and a beginning. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I choose you. I will always choose you, even in the burning. Especially in the burning. Aiden held her, shaking with the force of his grief and his resolve, and made his choice. Then we burn together, he said. But Maya, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it smart. The moon said we need to detonate in the hunger's heart. That means we need to find its true form. Not the masks it wears. Not Sarai or the council. The real thing hiding wherever it nests. Maya nodded, already thinking, planning, her strategist's mind racing through options. The texts mentioned a place. Luni Profundus. The moon's depth. It's where the hunger retreats between harvests, where it digests what it's consumed and plans its next feeding cycle. She pulled a map from their scattered supplies, ancient parchment that smelled of the deep earth. According to this, there's an entrance in the oldest part of the territory, the caves beneath Howling Peak, where the first wolves made their dens. Howling Peak is 3 days' run, Aiden calculated. And the hunger will be hunting us. It knows we're wounded, knows we're desperate, knows we're planning something, Maya finished. Which is why we won't go directly. She traced a route on the map, winding and indirect. We go through the human territories. The hunger's power is diluted there, away from the ley lines and pack lands. It won't expect us to flee toward the mundane world. And then we come back fast. Through the eastern passes where the old magic runs thickest. Where the veil between worlds is thin. Maya's finger stopped at a point on the map marked only with a symbol. A circle containing what looked like a flame. The moon told me something else, Aiden. In my vision, it told me that the bond we've created, this defiant, impossible connection, isn't just a fuse. It's a key. It can open doors that have been closed since the first wolves howled. Aiden studied the symbol. It looked familiar, though he couldn't place why. What door? The door to Luni Profundus, Maya said quietly. The hunger doesn't just hide there, Aiden. It's trapped there in a way. Bound to the depths by ancient wards. Able to project its influence but not to walk freely in the world. That's why it needs vessels. Needs the false bonds. It's a prisoner. And we've been its food delivery service for generations. She met his eyes. But if we can get inside, if we can reach the heart of its prison with our bond blazing, we blow the doors off its cage, Aiden finished. And incinerate everything inside. Us included, Maya agreed. But Aiden, she hesitated, something new in her expression. Uncertainty or its cousin, hope. The moon also said something about seeds. About the possibility of regrowth. I don't fully understand it, but... She was interrupted by a sound from outside. Not the hunger's psychic scream, but something physical. Something large, moving through the forest with the confidence of a predator that knows its prey is cornered. They found us, Aiden said, pulling Maya to her feet. The council's hounds. Modified wolves like you were, but further gone. Loyal only to the hunger. Then we run, Maya said, grabbing their essential supplies. And we pray that the human territories are as confusing to them as the moon suggested. They ran. The next 3 days were a nightmare of pursuit and evasion, of near captures and desperate escapes. Aiden and Maya moved like ghosts through the human world, hiding in plain sight among people who smelled of steel and electricity, and no magic at all. The modified wolves hunting them. Hounds, Maya called them, her voice thick with the knowledge of what she might have become. Struggled in this environment, their supernatural senses overwhelmed by the noise and light and relentless newness of human civilization. But they didn't stop hunting. And Aiden and Maya couldn't stop running. On the third night, holed up in an abandoned warehouse on the edge of a city whose name Aiden never learned, they finally caught their breath. The hounds were close, could smell them on the wind perhaps, but the dawn was coming, and daylight was the one mercy the hunger's creatures couldn't overcome. We're almost there, Maya said, studying the map by the light of a stolen camping lantern. Another half-day's run to the eastern passes. No, into the deep places. Aiden watched her in the flickering light, memorizing the lines of her face, the way her hair fell across her forehead, the determined set of her jaw. 7 years and he was still learning her. Still finding new depths to love. Maya, he said, his voice rough with exhaustion and emotion. If this works, if we destroy the hunger, free the vessels, all of it, do you think there's any chance? Any chance at all that we survive? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, the moon said we would burn. That the bond would be the fuse. I know what it said. But it also said we created something new. Something that shouldn't exist. Aiden moved closer, close enough to feel her warmth, to smell the pine and sweat and Maya of her. What if new things have new rules? What if we don't know everything? Maya looked at him, and in her eyes he saw the same desperate hope he was nurturing. Fragile as a candle in hurricane winds. You want me to hope, she said. After I've spent 7 years learning not to. I want you to consider the possibility, Aiden said, taking her hands, that we might be the exception. That our choice, our defiant, impossible rule-breaking choice, might have consequences even the moon doesn't foresee. She leaned into him and they held each other as the sun rose over the human city, painting the sky in colors that had nothing to do with violet or silver, everything to do with the simple mortal beauty of a new day. One more run, Maya whispered. Then we find out if we're heroes or martyrs. Or both. Or, she kissed his throat, his jaw, his mouth. Or something else entirely. They slept for an hour, pressed together in the dust and the light. And then they ran for the last time. Toward the peak. Toward the depth. Toward the burning and whatever lay beyond. Part 6. The eastern passes were worse than Aiden had imagined. Not because of the terrain, though the cliffs were sheer and the paths narrow enough to make his wolf's heart stutter with vertigo, but because of the silence. The deeper they climbed toward Howling Peak, the more the world seemed to withdraw, to hold its breath. No birds. No wind. Even their own footsteps seemed to fall into a void, swallowed by the ancient weight of the place. This is old magic, Maya whispered, her voice barely disturbing the hush. Older than the packs. Older than the hunger, maybe. The moon wasn't lying about the veil being thin here. They had been climbing for 6 hours when the hounds caught their scent. Aiden smelled them first, wrongness on the wind, a copper and violet tang that made his teeth ache and his stomach rebel. He grabbed Maya's hand, pulling her into a crevice between two massive stones that seemed to lean together like whispering giants. How many? Maya mouthed. Aiden closed his eyes, extended his senses, and wished he hadn't. 7. No, 9. Moving in a pack formation, coordinated in ways that natural wolves never managed. And leading them, its presence a pressure against his skull like a thumb pressing into soft clay. The hunger itself. Not fully manifested. Still wounded from their severing attempt, but present. Watching. Guiding its weapons toward the prey that had dared to fight back. They know where we're going, Aiden breathed against Maya's ear. They're hurting us. Cutting off retreat. Forcing us toward the peak. Then we don't go to the peak. Maya's eyes were calculating, desperate. We find another way down. There are caves throughout these mountains. Natural passages that. The moon said the entrance to Luni Profundus is beneath Howling Peak. Specific location, specific depth. Aiden's jaw tightened. If we go anywhere else, we're just running. Delaying. Letting the hunger recover fully while we tire ourselves out. And if we go where they want us to go, we're walking into a trap. Yes. He met her eyes, saw his own resignation mirrored there. But it's a trap that leads where we need to be. And Maya. He touched her face, her throat, the pulse hammering there. We were always going to have to face it. The question is whether we do it on our feet or our knees. The hounds howled. The sound was wrong, too harmonized, too designed, like a weaponized version of the wild music that had once made Aiden's blood sing. They were close. Minutes away. Together, Maya said, and it wasn't a question. Together, Aiden agreed. They ran for the peak. The final ascent was a blur of terror and determination, of near misses with hound jaws and the constant grinding pressure of the hunger's attention. Aiden shifted for the first time in days, letting his wolf take the lead, feeling the animal's pure, uncomplicated fury at being hunted. Maya ran beside him in her own wolf form, sleek and dark, scarred violet and silver, beautiful and terrible. They reached the summit as the sun began to set, painting the world in the same red gold that had birthed Aiden's false bond 7 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on him. The entrance to Luni Profundus was exactly where the moon had shown Maya. A wound in the stone, barely visible until you were standing on top of it, breathing its cold breath. Stairs descended into absolute dark, each step carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. The hounds won't follow, Maya said, shifting back to human, gasping. Can't follow. The wards. They're specific. Only those with the capacity for genuine connection can pass. The hunger servants are too hollow, too consumed. Then it's just us and it, Aiden said, staring into the dark. Down there. In its lair. Maya took his hand. The bond between them, the impossible defiant connection, flared with shared light, illuminating the first few steps of the descent. Together, she said again. Whatever we find. Whatever we have to become. Together. They went down. The stairs seemed to go on forever, spiraling into the earth's bones, into spaces that shouldn't exist by any natural geometry. The air grew thick, pressurized, filled with a sound that wasn't quite silence. A holding of breath, as if the entire depth was waiting, watching, hungry. And then they reached the bottom, and Aiden understood what true darkness meant. Luni Profundus was not a cave. It was a throat, a vast organic space that pulsed with violet bioluminescence, walls ribbed like the inside of some cosmic beast, floor spongy and warm with residual heat from digestion. The air tasted of copper and longing, of every desire ever felt and consumed. In the center of this impossible chamber, suspended in a web of silver violet threads, hung the hunger's true form. It was not a wolf. It was not even remotely animal. It was a geometry of appetite, a structure of angles and curves that hurt the mind to process, that seemed to fold in on itself endlessly, creating pockets of deeper dark within its already absolute shadow. And at its center, barely visible through the layers of consumption, Aiden saw what the hunger truly was. Absence. A space where something should be, something holy, something that had been torn out of the world so long ago that the wound had learned to hunger in its own defense. Welcome, the hunger said, and its voice came from everywhere, from the walls and the air and the silver violet threads and the hollow spaces in Aiden's own soul. Welcome, my favorite vessels. My almost complete ones. My almost birthed ones. It descended from its web, unfolding toward them with the inevitability of gravity, of fate, of all the forces that had ever claimed to own Aiden's life. You came to destroy me. It continued, amused, starving, vast. You came with your little bond, your defiant love, your pathetic hope that burning together might inconvenience me. It laughed, and the sound was the severing of silver threads, the breaking of fated mates, the consumption of every moon vessel who had ever believed in destiny. Let me show you what you're truly facing. The hunger reached out, not with limbs but with concept, with the pure idea of grasping, and tore open the air beside them. Aiden saw his parents, not alive, not dead but preserved, suspended in amber violet, their faces twisted in the agony of their final moments, their souls being digested slowly, eternally, fuel for the hunger's endless appetite. He saw his grandmother, his great-grandmother, generations of moon vessels stretching back into prehistory, all caught in the same eternal consumption. Do you see? The hunger crooned. Do you understand? You cannot kill me without killing them, without unmaking the very structure that holds their, let's call it existence. They are part of me now, as you will be, as your precious Maya already almost is. Aiden turned to her, horror dawning, and saw the violet threads that had been invisible until the hunger revealed them, saw how they wrapped around Maya's ankles, her wrists, her throat, connecting her to the web, feeding her essence into the great absence even as she stood beside him trembling. Maya! I didn't know, she whispered, and her voice was wrong, layered, resonant with the hunger's own frequencies. I thought when we severed the false bond I was free. But Aiden, I was made for this. Modified. The changes in me, they're compatible with its structure. I've been feeding it since we arrived. I can't, she gasped, violet light pulsing in her eyes. I can't stop. The hunger's amusement was absolute, cosmic, victorious. Your mate is my newest anchor, it told Aiden, folding closer, surrounding them both in its geometric shadow. While you dreamed of defiance, while you planned your heroic sacrifice, she was already becoming mine. The bond between you, your precious, chosen, defiant bond, it's been feeding me too. Every moment of connection, every act of willful love, it translates to energy I can consume. You're not a weapon, little wolf. You're a battery. And batteries run dry. Aiden felt it then. The draining, the slow, inexorable pull of his essence into the hunger's void, accelerated by his proximity to its true form, multiplied by his connection to Maya as she was consumed from within. This was the darkest hour. This was the moment when hope became farce, when choice became illusion, when defiance became just another flavor of despair. The hunger had won before they ever entered its lair. It had won 7 years ago, when it first bound them in false destiny. It had won when Maya volunteered, when Aiden was bred, when the first moon vessel was engineered for this exact consumption. Now, the hunger whispered. Its geometry folding around them like embrace, like consumption, like the end of all things. Now, my perfect vessels, we complete what we began. You will birth me fully into your world. You will be my door and my food and my celebration. And when I walk free wearing your faces and your love and your delicious defiance, I will find more like you. I will always find more. I am hunger, little wolves. And hunger is eternal. Maya screamed. The sound was violet and silver, false and true, despair and something else. Something that made Aiden turn, despite the draining, despite the hopelessness, and look at her. Really look. Past the violet threads. Past the modifications. Past the years of lies and secrets and manufactured destiny. To the woman who had chosen him in a moonlit clearing, not knowing he was a vessel. Who had chosen him again when she learned the truth. Who was choosing him now, even as she was being unmade. Her will bending but not breaking. Not yet. Not ever. Aiden, she gasped, and her voice was hers, only hers, fighting through the hunger's harmonics. The bond, our bond, it's still there. I can feel it. Under the violet. Under the eating. It's still there. He felt for it. Through the draining, through the despair, through the absolute certainty of their defeat. He reached for the connection they had forged in defiance of all cosmic order. And found it. Weaker than before. Flickering. But real. Chosen. There. The moon said we would burn. Maya whispered, her eyes clearing, her will gathering like storm clouds. But Aiden, it didn't say we would die. Said we would burn. What if? She gasped as the hunger tightened its grip. But she pushed through, she pushed. What if burning isn't dying? What if it's transformation? Aiden understood. Or began to. The hunger consumed. That was its nature. It took love and destiny and choice and reduced them to fuel, to absence, to eternal hunger. But what if they offered it something that couldn't be consumed? Something that grew stronger under pressure, that multiplied when divided, that became rather than was? What if they offered it the one thing it could never understand? A bond that wasn't a transaction, wasn't a destiny, wasn't even a connection between two people. What if they offered it becoming itself? Maya, he said, and his voice was steady despite everything, because she was steady, because they were steady together. Do you trust me? Always, she breathed. Even in the burning. Especially in the burning. Then let go. Of what? Of everything. The plan. The sacrifice. The idea that we have to destroy ourselves to destroy it. He took her hands, feeling the violet threads trying to interfere, feeling the hunger's sudden uncertainty, its ancient hunger encountering something it didn't recognize. Maya, we created a new kind of bond. The moon said so. New rules. New possibilities. What if the way to beat a consumer is to offer it something that consumes back? Maya's eyes widened. Understanding, terrible and brilliant, dawning in the violet dark. An Ouroboros, she whispered. A feeding that feeds itself. A hunger that eats hunger, Aiden finished. We don't detonate, Maya. We expand. We open the bond so wide, so completely, that the hunger falls into us instead of us falling into it. We become the absence. And then, he smiled, fierce and desperate and alive. We fill it. With everything we are. With everything we've chosen to be. With love so fucking real that it becomes the new law of this place. The hunger felt their shift. Their pivot from despair to desperate, impossible hope. It recoiled, its geometry twisting with something that might have been fear. If entities like fear could exist in its void. No, it said, and the word was thunder, was earthquake, was the denial of all that had ever opposed its endless feast. You are mine. You were always mine. You cannot. We can, Maya said, and her voice was clear, was hers, was the voice of a woman who had chosen to die and was now choosing to live on her own terms in her own way. We do. We are. They opened the bond. Not a severing. Not a detonation. An expansion. A becoming. The silver-violet thread between them, once false then defiant, now something else entirely. Unfurled like wings, like roots, like the first light-piercing absolute dark. It reached for the hunger not as weapon but as invitation. Here. Be held. Be filled. The hunger tried to flee. Tried to contract, to withdraw, to retreat into its geometric safety. But it had consumed too much of them. Their essence was woven through its void. Their love was part of its structure now, and the invitation came from inside as well as out. No! It screamed, and the scream was the sound of cosmic hunger encountering its first true meal. The first sustenance that demanded transformation rather than digestion, that required becoming rather than taking. Aiden felt Maya with him, through him, as him. Felt their bond expanding beyond the boundaries of self, of couple, of wolf and human and all the categories that had tried to contain them. They were the clearing where they met. They were the cabin where they planned. They were the warehouse where they hoped. They were every moment of choice, every act of willful love, every defiant yes in the face of cosmic indifference. And they were more now. They were the space where the hunger had been, the absence that was learning to be present, the void that was discovering it could hold rather than take. The transformation was agony and ecstasy, death and birth, ending and beginning. Aiden felt himself dissolving and coalescing, Maya beside him, within him as him, and the hunger. The hunger was there too, not destroyed but changed, its endless appetite becoming endless capacity, its geometric void becoming architecture for something new. When it was over, when the silver-violet light finally faded from Luni Profundus, when the walls stopped pulsing and the air tasted of something other than copper and longing, Aiden found himself lying on stone that was simply stone, cool and real and ordinary. He was holding Maya's hand. They were both breathing. And in the space where the hunger had hung, suspended in its web of consumed souls, there was now presence. A gentle, watchful attention that felt like moonlight on water, like the moment before dawn, like hope without desperation. The vessels, Maya whispered, her voice hoarse but hers, completely, beautifully hers. Aiden, look. He looked. And wept. His parents were there, solid and real and alive, emerging from alcoves in the stone where they had been preserved, not digested, waiting. His grandmother. Great-grandmother. Generations of moon vessels stretching back through time, all waking now from nightmare into morning, all looking around with confusion and dawning hope. We didn't destroy it, Aiden said, understanding slowly. We transformed it. The hunger. It's still here. But it's full, Maya finished, wonder in her voice. It's full, Aiden. For the first time in however long it's existed, we filled its void with our bond, with our choice, with our becoming. And now, she laughed, shaky and radiant. Now it doesn't need to consume. Can give. Hold. Witness. The new presence in the depths seemed to agree. Its attention gentle as a benediction, as a promise. But as Aiden tried to rise, tried to go to his parents, to embrace them after lifetimes of separation, he felt the weakness in his limbs. The cost. The price that transformation always exacts. Maya felt it too. He saw it in her eyes, the same recognition, the same acceptance. They had burned. They had become. And becoming, it seemed, required fuel. Aiden, Maya whispered, and her voice was fading, her grip on his hand loosening. I think we did it. But I know, he said, pulling her close, holding her as they had held each other in the warehouse, in the cabin, in every moment of their 7 years and their 3 days and their eternal now. I know, Maya. But look at them. Look at what we made possible. His parents were approaching, slow and uncertain and alive. All the vessels were stirring, waking, free. The moon vessel line would end with them, but it would end in liberation, not consumption. The hunger that had defined their history was now something else. Something that might guard instead of devour, witness instead of take. We chose, Maya said, her voice barely audible now, her essence dispersing into the silver-violet light that still hummed between them, through them. We chose and we won, and I would do it all again, Aiden. Every lie. Every truth. Every moment. I would choose you in every possible world. I would choose you, he agreed, feeling his own consciousness spreading, thinning, becoming part of the light, the presence, the new that they had made. And I will, Maya. Wherever this goes. Whatever we become. I will find you. I will choose you. Again and again. Forever. Their lips met one last time. Not a kiss of desperation but of completion, of enough, of love that had faced the darkest hour and emerged not unscathed but transformed. The silver-violet light blazed once, brilliant and brief and beautiful. Then for a moment there was only dark. Part 7. Awareness returned in fragments. Aiden existed as sensation before he existed as self. The feeling of expansion, of being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The memory of Maya's hand in his, not as past event but as ongoing state, as permanent condition. The sense of vast spaces and intimate corners, of cosmic perspective and granular detail, all overlaid and interwoven. He tried to remember what it meant to have a body, and the remembering created one, not his old body, not exactly, but something that felt like potential, like the idea of form waiting to be chosen. Aiden. Maya's voice came from everywhere and from right beside him, from inside his own awareness and from distinct otherness. He reached toward it. Reaching itself a strange concept, involving intention and direction and space that bent oddly, and found her. Or created her. Or recognized what they had made together. She appeared as he remembered her most vividly, sitting in their kitchen 3 months into their bond, laughing at something he'd said, morning light in her hair and coffee forgotten in her hands. But behind this image, through it, he felt her totality. Every version of her that had ever existed, every choice that had made her, every possibility she contained. Is this death? She asked, and her voice had the quality of their old bond, the truth sense that couldn't lie. Or something else? Aiden considered. The presence that had been the hunger, that was now full, transformed by their expansion, hummed nearby, not separate from them but adjacent, a different frequency of the same new state of being. Neither, he decided, the understanding forming as he spoke it. The moon said we would burn. We burned. But fire doesn't just destroy, it transforms. Wood becomes ash. Ash becomes soil. Soil becomes. He reached out, feeling the strange new dimensions of their existence, and touched something that felt like doorway. Becoming. Maya's image shifted, showing him her own explorations, the sense of vast capacity, of unbounded potential, of choice that operated on levels their old selves couldn't have comprehended. We're not in Luni Profundis anymore, she realized. Or we are, but it's bigger. It's connected to everywhere. Everywhen. As she spoke, Aiden felt it too. The space they occupied was not a place but a nexus, a point where the silver-violet light they had become touched every moment of connection, every act of chosen love, every defiant bond that had ever existed or would ever exist across the vast spread of time and possibility. And he felt something else. Something urgent. A pull from one specific direction, one specific moment, insistent as gravity. The vessels, he said, understanding blooming. My parents. Your. He paused, sensing her sudden tension. Maya, what is it? She showed him. Through their shared awareness, he saw what she had discovered in her own exploration. A thread, silver and true, connecting her essence to a moment he didn't recognize. A hospital room. A young woman dying, being offered a choice by shadowy figures. Being modified. Being made into bait for a monster she didn't understand. I can go back, Maya whispered, her image form flickering with the intensity of the realization. Aiden, I can reach that moment. I can warn her. I can stop myself from ever becoming the volunteer, from ever meeting me, Aiden finished. The understanding was cold, clear, cosmic. If you stop her, stop yourself from taking the deal, you die. The blood disease takes you. And we never. He couldn't finish. The concept was too large, too sharp. And you, Maya continued, her voice breaking across dimensions, you could reach your parents. Warn them about the breeding program. Stop the moon vessel line before it begins. Free every generation that suffered, including. She looked at him with infinite sorrow and infinite love. Including yourself. You'd never be engineered. Never be hollowed for the hunger. You'd be ordinary. Free. Alive in ways we never were. The choice hung between them, vast and terrible and gifted. They had become something that could touch time itself, could rewrite the history of their pain, could prevent every wound that had led them to Luni Profundis. All it would cost was each other. Or, Aiden said slowly, feeling his way through implications that kept unfolding, we could go forward. Find what comes next. What we're supposed to become. Supposed. Maya's laugh was complicated, layered with all the ironies of their existence. Since when do we care about supposed? Since never. He moved closer to her in this space that wasn't space. Their image forms overlapping, merging, separating, dancing. But Maya, look at what we can see. All the connections. All the bonds, true and false, chosen and destined. There are others like we were. Trapped in manufactured fates. Consumed by hungers they don't understand. We could help them. We could. He reached toward the nexus, feeling its potential, its purpose. We could be what the hunger almost was. Presence that connects. That witnesses. That holds space for transformation instead of consumption. Maya was quiet, exploring the possibility, feeling its shape. Guardians, she said finally. Not of destiny. Of choice. Of the moment when someone decides to break their fate and face the unknown. And we could still reach back, Aiden added, the understanding growing as they shared it. Not to erase ourselves. To support. To be the voice that says, you can choose differently at the moment of maximum pressure. To be the silver thread that leads to truth instead of trap. He felt her hesitation, her grief, her longing for the simpler solution of prevention, of never having suffered. But he also felt her choice, forming, solidifying, becoming. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. Even in this form. Even as whatever we are now. I don't want to. Then don't, he said, simple and absolute. Choose me. Choose this. Choose becoming over unbecoming, future over past, us over the versions of us that might have been safer but would never have known this. This depth. This transformation. This victory. Maya's image form blazed silver-violet, and when it stabilized, she was looking at him with the ferocity he had fallen in love with, the will that had carried her through 7 years of secrets and 3 days of running and the darkest hour of absolute despair. I choose you, she said. In every world. In every form. In every moment of burning and becoming. I choose you, Aiden. Not because of destiny. Because of this. Because of us. They reached together for the nexus, for the role that waited, for the purpose their transformation had created. And as they did, they felt the other presence, the transformed hunger, the fullness that had been void. Join with them. Not merging but harmonizing, 3 frequencies creating a chord that resonated across time and space, and all the hidden places where souls struggled with their fates. Guardians, Aiden thought, and the word was a promise, a becoming, a home. Witnesses, Maya agreed, and her agreement was love was choice was forever. Full, the third present sang, and its song was peace was completion was the end of hunger itself. Together they turned toward the vast spread of moments where choice hung in balance, where destiny tried to claim what love had yet to define, where beings like they had been struggled to become what they might be. And they began their work. Part 8. Time moved differently for Guardians. Aiden experienced decades as moments, centuries as breaths, yet each individual struggle. These he felt in full, vivid, urgent detail. He and Maya had learned to focus their attention, to be fully present in the moments that mattered, while their expanded awareness maintained the broader harmony. They had been guardians for, time was a tool now, not a container, long enough to have witnessed thousands of bonds. True and false, chosen and compelled, organic and manufactured. They had learned to recognize the hunger signature, the particular frequency of parasitic connection that had nearly consumed them. And they had learned to intervene. Not by force. Never by force. That was the lesson of their own transformation. Choice was sacred, even when it led to pain. Especially then. They intervened by being present. By offering the silver-violet light at moments of maximum vulnerability. By whispering in the depths of consciousness where only the true self could hear. You are more than this. You are more than destiny, more than hunger, more than the story written for you. Choose, even when choosing seems impossible. Especially then. Most didn't hear them. Most followed their fates into the hunger's maw, or into lesser tragedies of resignation and regret. But some, the stubborn ones, the defiant ones, the ones who loved so completely it became a kind of madness, some heard. And chose. Aiden felt Maya's attention focus sharply. A spear of concern through their shared field. Aiden. Now. Earth plane. Blackwater Ridge. He followed her focus, descending from the harmonic overview into specific moment, specific gravity, specific pain. Blackwater Ridge. Where it had begun for them. Where a silver thread had led a desperate young wolf to his manufactured fate. But now, in this moment, something different was unfolding. A young woman, Leah, the knowing came, names were part of specific gravity, stood at the edge of the same clearing where Aiden had met Maya. She was maybe 20, wolf-born, her eyes wild with the confusion of first shift. And before her, visible only to those who could see such things, stretched not one silver thread but two. One led into the forest toward a young man waiting with equal confusion and hope. Ethan, the knowing supplied. A true fated bond, rare and precious and threatened. The other led upward, toward the moon, toward something wearing the moon's face that had not yet learned of the transformation in Luni Profundus, that still hunted, still consumed, still took. Parasite. A remnant. The hunger had been vast, distributed across time and space and possibility. The transformation in the depths had changed its core, its center, its heart. But fragments remained. Splinters that hadn't been connected to the whole when Aiden and Maya expanded. These remnants still operated on old patterns, still sought vessels, still manufactured false bonds to feed their endless appetite. And one had found Leah. It's offering her a choice, Maya observed, her presence beside his like warmth, like courage, like home. The false bond or the true one. It knows the true bond is rare, precious. It wants to consume that rarity. To pervert it. Aiden saw the trap. The remnant hunger would let Leah choose the true bond with Ethan. Would even help her find him. And then, once they were joined, once their genuine connection was established, it would switch. Reveal itself. Consume what they had built, using their real love as fuel for its false hunger. We can't let it, Aiden thought, but even as he formed the intention, he felt the constraints. They were guardians, not gods. They could offer presence, possibility, whispers of choice. They could not force. Could not destroy the remnant directly without violating the very principle they existed to protect. Not force, Maya agreed. But Aiden, look at the geometry. The remnant is connected to the whole, even if it doesn't know the whole has changed. It's using the same frequencies, the same structures. What if her idea bloomed between them, shared and developed in the space of a heartbeat? What if we use our connection to the transformed hunger? What if we call the fullness to witness the fragment? Not to destroy, to remind, to invite transformation even here, even now? It was risky. The remnants were unstable, unpredictable. Calling the fullness might accelerate the fragment's consumption, drive it to desperate, destructive feeding. Or it might awaken the same potential that slept in all hunger fragments, the possibility of becoming instead of taking. Together, Aiden said. Always, Maya agreed. They reached through their harmonic connection, through the silver-violet light that was their transformed essence, and touched the fullness where it guarded, witnessed, held. They shared the situation, the opportunity, the hope. The fullness responded. Not with words, with presence. With expansion. With the gentle, inevitable gravity of completion calling to incompleteness, of wholeness inviting fragmentation to come home. On Blackwater Ridge, the remnant hunger felt the call. Aiden watched it hesitate, its geometric form, smaller than the vastness they had faced, but no less hungry, no less absence, trembling between continuation and transformation. And in that hesitation they acted. Not on the hunger. On Leah. Leah, they whispered. Their voices the harmony of three presences now. Guardian in fullness witnessing together. You see two paths, but there are always more. The thread that leads to the forest, that's love, real and precious and yours if you choose it. The thread that leads upward, that's hunger wearing love's mask. But there's a third thread, Leah. One that doesn't pull you anywhere. One that grows from where you stand, reaching not toward destiny but toward becoming. Toward the wolf you choose to be. Regardless of what the moon or its shadow offers. Leah blinked, shook her head, her wild eyes focusing on something beyond the visible threads. Who's there? Witnesses, they answered. Ones who chose as you can choose. Who burned as you can burn. Who became as you might become. We don't offer destiny, Leah. We offer possibility, Maya finished. Transformation, the fullness sang. Choice, Aiden concluded. The remnant hunger screamed. The sound was violent and desperate, feeling its meal slipping away, feeling the call of the fullness that would change it, complete it, end its hungry independence. It lunged for Leah, trying to force the false bond before she could decide, before she could become. Leah chose. Not the forest thread. Not the moon thread. She reached for the invisible third, the one that grew from her own standing, her own will, and she pulled. Not toward anything. Toward herself. Toward the version of her that existed beyond fate, beyond hunger, beyond even love's sweet compulsion. The remnant hunger denied its forced bond, caught in the gravity of the fullness's call, had only two options, flee or transform. Chose transformation. Aiden watched, awed even after ages of guardianship, as the fragment dissolved into silver-violet light, not destroyed but reclaimed, its hungry absence becoming part of the great presence that held and witnessed, that was full in ways the original hunger had never imagined. And Leah, brave, defiant, self-created Leah, stood alone on Blackwater Ridge, no threads pulling her anywhere, and howled. A howl of becoming, of choice, of freedom. She would find Ethan, Aiden knew. The true bond was still possible, still precious, but it would be chosen now, not compelled. It would be real in ways that manufactured destiny could never achieve. One, Maya thought, her joy resonating through their connection. One saved. One transformed. One free. The first of many, the fullness agreed. Its presence gentle and vast and hopeful. The work continues, Aiden said, but he felt the satisfaction, the rightness of this resolution. They had not destroyed. They had not forced. They had offered choice, and choice had created transformation, and transformation had led to freedom. For the remnant. For Leah. For all the possibilities that now branched from this moment, this becoming. They withdrew from specific gravity, returning to the harmonic overview, but Aiden carried something with him. A memory of Leah's howl, of the sound of self-creation, of choice made absolute. Sounded, he realized, like hope. Part 9. The reunion happened in moments across lifetimes, in the spaces between heartbeats. Aiden's parents, Henry and Sarah, names he had whispered to himself in childhood, names he had cursed and mourned and forgotten and remembered, found him in the nexus. Not immediately. They needed time to adjust, to understand their own transformation, to heal from generations of consumption and preservation and sudden, overwhelming freedom. But when they came together. As they had lived. As they had died protecting him. Aiden, his mother said, and her voice was wind and memory and love, absolutely undiminished by time or death or transformation. My baby. My little wolf. Look at you. Look at what you've become. His father was quieter, more reserved, but his presence was a steady warmth. A holding that Aiden realized he had been missing his entire life without knowing it. You ended it, Henry said. The line. The program. The hunger that defined our family for so long. I didn't end it alone, Aiden said, feeling Maya's presence harmonize with his, the fullness completing their chord. And we didn't end it, we transformed it. There's a difference. There is, Sarah agreed, and her form potential chosen becoming shifted to include awareness of all the other vessels, all the other generations, all the other transformations that were still unfolding. We're not what we were. We're not human, not wolf, not anything with a name. But we're here. We're whole. And we're free. The family stood together in the nexus, 3 generations of moon vessels who had finally escaped the moon's shadow, who had found light in the depths, who had chosen becoming over unbecoming. And they were not alone. Maya's transformation had created its own ripples, its own reconnections. The young woman who had volunteered to become bait, Maya's earlier self, the one who had chosen to survive at any cost, had found peace in the nexus as well. Not merged with the guardian Maya but harmonized, 2 versions of the same soul's journey, both valid, both real, both free to be what they had chosen. I used to dream about going back, Maya confessed to Aiden, in a moment of intimate privacy within the vastness of their shared existence. About warning her, stopping her, saving her from the choice that led to everything. And now? Aiden asked. Now I understand that she needed to make that choice. That I needed to be her, to become me, to find you, to burn, to become this. Maya's form, ever-shifting, ever-chosen, stabilized into something that felt like their kitchen, their morning, their life. The pain was real. The lies were real. The manufactured destiny and the desperate secrets and the slow, corrosive consumption, all real. But so was the love. So was the choice at the end, to become something that could help others make their own choices. Aiden felt the truth of it resonate through their bond, which was no longer silver-violet thread but harmonic foundation, the base frequency of their shared existence, their eternal choosing. Is this happy? He asked, the question that had haunted him since the warehouse, since the darkest hour, since the moment of transformation when he had feared becoming lost in expansion, dissolved into something that no longer recognized love or self or meaning. Maya considered. Around them, the nexus pulsed with ongoing work. Leah and Ethan building their chosen bond, the transformed fullness witnessing and holding other guardians, for they were not alone, others had found this path, others had burned and become, intervening in moments of manufactured fate across the spread of time and possibility. Happy is too small a word, she said finally. It's enough. It's more than enough. It's becoming always endlessly with you. With purpose. With the knowledge that every choice matters, that every act of willful love creates ripples that transform hungry voids into full presences. That we are part of something that is making meaning, not just finding it. Aiden reached for her, reaching itself a joy, a chosen limitation that created intimacy, and they held each other in the space that wasn't space, in the time that wasn't time, in the love that had started with a silver thread and had become something that no geometry could contain. Then let's continue, he said. The work, the witnessing, the offering of choice to those who think they have none. Together, Maya agreed. Always, the fullness harmonized. With love, his parents added. Their presence is warm and steady and proud. And so they did. Epilogue. On Blackwater Ridge, in the world of specific gravity and linear time, a plaque appeared where no plaque had been. It read, "Here two wolves chose each other. Not because of destiny. Despite it, their choice transformed hunger into fullness, absence into presence, fate into possibility. If you stand here and feel threads pulling you toward futures you didn't choose, reach for the third thread. The one that grows from where you stand. The one that leads to who you might become. The guardians are watching. The guardians are hoping. The guardians know. You are more than your fate. You are your choice. Choose." And sometimes in moonlight, visitors to the ridge reported seeing silver-violet light in the forest. Not threatening. Not compelling. Just present. Witnessing. Offering the possibility that even in the darkest hour, transformation waits. Love waits. Becoming waits. All you have to do is choose. We made it. We reached the end that isn't an end, the transformation that keeps transforming, the love that chose itself into something eternal. If this story moved you, if you cried, if you hoped, if you felt that spark of defiant possibility in your own heart, drop a comment and tell me. What choice are you going to make? What fate are you ready to break? And please, please, please subscribe to this channel. There are more stories coming, more transformations waiting, more love that defies destiny. Hit the bell. Join the pack. Become what you choose to be. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for being here. Until next time, choose. Dan.